Hello, Debbie Hazelton with you, and it's another edition of On the Inside Track. This is a different kind of an edition. Every now and then, I bring on somebody that I just happen to find, and I love their work, and this is one of those cases. This is the work of Dr. Bradley Nelson, author of The Emotion Code. The Emotion Code is a wonderful self-help tool that anyone can use and get tremendous relief from emotional baggage. You know, many of you have heard me talk about different kinds of emotions playing havoc with our lives and all the different ways that we can work to feel better. Well, this is one way, because emotions can stay trapped in our bodies and in our energy field. And with this tool that is accessible, we can work with muscle testing. And there are lots of ways to do muscle testing to access and find and clear various emotions without having to go through lots of re-experiencing of them. It's really a tremendous thing when clearing emotions changes the whole landscape, the whole horizon of our lives. I know this, and I know this from many of my clients who I've helped with all kinds of other forms of energy work over the years. I can't even keep clients needing my services for very long anymore because they get what they need and get on with their lives feeling better. You can go to discoverhealing.com and find sample chapters of the book, and all of the charts can be downloaded for free. I was able to actually put them into Braille for myself. You can also go to Compass Healing on YouTube and find lots of videos where he and some of his practitioners who have been certified go through, demonstrations and discussions about many aspects of this work. It is wonderful. I encourage you to go to his other links and find out more. This book is on Audible, and I did go and purchase it there. It is on Bookshare, and an earlier version of it is read on YouTube, but that is not as expanded as what is out there now. So many thanks to Dr. Brad and to his staff, his customer service people, his assistant, Jana Carter, and others who work for and with him. Many, many thanks. And here we go. Thanks so much for being here.
I am absolutely honored. I've heard you say it's the best energy work on the planet.
I think it's the easiest energy work that's available, and I think it's the simplest.
I notice you're very generous with it. It is truly self-help, as well as something for practitioners. But you have been extremely generous with this work.
Well, I believe that this work has really come from up above to me. And so for many, many years, we made it available. You could download it as an ebook for free. That helped to get the word out to many, many people. We eventually sold the rights to the book in English language to St. Martin's Press. And so we can't give it away for free anymore, but people can still buy it, and we still give away. They allow us to give away a couple of the first chapters, first 2 chapters of the book for free. But it's simple enough and it's easy enough that kids can learn how to do it. And the world has to change. And emotional baggage is this enormous, unrecognized problem that we all deal with, that is diminishing all of our lives and is interfering with our abilities to really manifest the life that we're all capable of manifesting. And we have to get rid of our emotional baggage to really be able to manifest who we are.
Why do you think emotional baggage is such a crucial problem now? Or is it more so than ever before, do you think?
Well, I think that that's possible. I mean, if you look at the world now, and you look at how much chaos there is going on, and how short people's tempers are, and how little love there is in the world, what we find is that, especially with the heart itself, the human heart is a second brain.
Hmm.
And, back in the 1960s when doctors started doing heart transplants, they started finding that people would come back relaying strange things, reporting that they had new taste in music or food or sports, or that they had memories of places now after their transplant, of places that they had never been in their lives, but that now they have memories of being in those places. Sometimes their handwriting would totally change. And in every case, when they were taken to the family of the donor and connected with them, they would find out, oh, yes, that's our son's handwriting that you have now. How strange is that? Or, yes, our daughter was a concert violinist. That must be why you love classical music now, and those passages that you're telling us that you can't get out of your head, those were her favorite passages.
Hmm.
Really amazing things. And so we now know that the heart is really a second brain. It puts out 60 to 1,000 times more electromagnetic energy than the brain that's in our head. So it's easily the most powerful organ in the body. And they have found also that the brain that is in our heads is really obeying the messages sent by the brain that's in our hearts. And so the most important part of the emotion code is how our emotional baggage can form into a wall around our heart and can then interfere with our ability to give and receive love, and also interfere with our ability to really manifest that best life that lies within the heart of each one of us. And so when that wall is taken down, and the instructions on how to do that are in the emotion code book itself.
Hmm.
When that wall is taken down, people fall in love who never thought they would. People get well who never thought they would. People have creative ideas that start to flow that never thought they would. People feel the love of the Creator for them when they had never felt that love for them before. So it's a tremendously powerful thing. I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that something like this could go on, that the subconscious mind, when you feel like your heart is going to break, will actually put up a wall to protect the heart,
Hmm.
made of your emotional baggage, like the layers of an onion. I never would have imagined that. It's crazy. But that's what goes on.
You've told wonderful stories that I've listened to on several of your YouTube videos, and I want to put your link out there for people to go and please discover all these wonderful videos out there. The stories that you have about people's lives changing, the anger that they're no longer driven by, and
Right.
oh, incredible. I've heard you say, I thought 90% and 96% of what goes on with people's health is emotional in part.
Well, 90, I believe, from my own experiences and from the people that are doing the emotion code around the world, we have about 5,600 certified emotion code practitioners now in about 78
Wonderful.
countries. What we're finding all over the world is the same thing, and that is that about 90 or so % of the physical pain that people have is actually due to their emotional baggage. And so when we remove their emotional baggage, when we release those trapped emotions, the physical pain will often just instantly disappear. And every couple of weeks, typically, I'll do a webinar about that, where we just take people at random who call in from different countries and different parts of the world, and we'll take a volunteer. And I don't like to talk to anybody unless they've had physical pain for at least 6 months, and it's at least a 7 on a 0 to 10 scale. And we can usually get them to a 0 within maybe 10 minutes or so, just by releasing their emotional baggage.
Your technique, it doesn't require people to experience the emotions necessarily either.
No, that's correct. With the emotion code, what we do is we teach a number of different methods to tap into the subconscious mind, because it is the subconscious mind that has all the information in there about what emotional baggage we have and what's going on with our bodies. And so we tap into that using muscle testing. There are different methods we use. There are all kinds of different tests that you can use. But the bottom line is that when you ask a question of the subconscious mind, the body will manifest the response. And that response will be manifested as either a strong muscle test for yes, or a weak muscle test for no. And so So that's how we ask the subconscious mind questions, and then we ask about if there's a trapped emotion that's contributing to this issue, and if there is, then we have a chart of emotions, and we ask if it's in column A or B, in an odd row or an even row, and so we can identify the emotion usually within less than a minute of just asking questions and then zeroing in. Then we find the emotion, and then we ask simply if we need to know more about this. Sometimes we have to dig a little bit deeper. But the beautiful thing about it is the subconscious mind within every single one of us and within every animal also
I know this. Yeah.
knows exactly what's going on with that individual, with that animal. And so when we tap into that subconscious mind, we're literally just opening the subconscious mind like a book and asking questions in the simplest way that we possibly can to get to the answer as fast as we can. And once we find the answer, we can release that imbalance. And usually there's a change in people's symptom picture, and it often happens right away. Sometimes it takes more time. It just depends. But it's a matter. It's that, like the old idea of the onion. Peeling off the layers of the onion, and pretty soon there aren't any more layers to peel off.
And what if the person who's answering or having the muscle testing done is resisting?
Healing work really of any kind always works best when the person that is hoping to be helped is hoping to be helped and is a willing participant. I mean, this isn't the kind of thing that you can do very well with people that aren't willing to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody is open, and not everybody is willing to be helped. And sometimes we have people who come to us who say, I really want to help my husband, or I really want to help my daughter, but they're not open or they're not willing. And it's okay. You need to allow people to have their own free agency, and to allow them to choose when they want to get better. And if they don't want to get better right now, then that's fine. And the bottom line, really, Debbie, is that if people aren't willing to be helped,
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want to get help, then you can do all kinds of things for them. And you might be the greatest healer in the world, but if they don't want to be helped, they're not going to be helped. By the same token, people who, for example, are told by their medical doctor that they're going to die, that there's no hope for them, oftentimes they die. And sometimes I think needlessly, because the subconscious mind is so powerful. If they really truly believe they can't get well, or that they're going to die no matter what, they often do. The point that I'm trying to make there is that if you really believe you're going to die, you probably will.
Does the body always tell the truth?
Well, muscle testing is not 100% accurate. There isn't anything on earth that is 100% accurate. And muscle testing is not 100% accurate either. What you have to understand is that the subconscious mind of the individual is a bit like a puppy in that it wants to please you. And so what we teach everyone is that when you're testing someone with muscle testing, it's very important to not have some kind of preconceived idea of what it is you want to have show up, because the subconscious mind of the individual that you're working with, their subconscious mind is communicating with your subconscious mind as the practitioner, and so there's already this conversation going on. And if you, as the practitioner or as the person doing the healing, if you expect that you're going to find a certain thing, then the muscle testing can make it come out that way. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful of that. And that's a lot of people don't realize that about muscle testing, but it's a very important aspect of muscle testing that we deal with, and it's not a big deal, but you have to be aware of it.
Yes, I remember hearing you talk about certain people who have a theme, and they start seeing that in everyone. And sometimes, just like anything, that could be our stuff.
Yeah, exactly right.
Sure.
A great example of this actually happened to me. My wife and I had 4 girls that were, I think, 4 and 2, and then my wife had twins, and twin boys. And when they were about 2 years old, she was just feeling like, okay, my life is overwhelming completely. I'm not having any more kids. That's it. And then all of a sudden, in that moment, in her mind's eye, there was this little girl right there in front of her, and she could see her in her mind's eye. And she was a little brunette girl, and she was saying, "You mean you're not going to have me?"
Oh, I love it. Oh,
And
my gosh.
right, and my wife thought, "Oh no, well, okay, no, it's fine. We'll have you." So then, a few months later, my wife gets pregnant, and so we thought, "Oh, it's the little girl. This is going to be so much fun." And now I used to have women who would come to me when I was in practice just for me to test them to see what sex their baby was going to be. And I was 98% accurate, which I think is at least as good as ultrasound, maybe a little better. But I didn't have any vested interest in the outcome. It didn't matter to me if it was a boy or a girl. Now, in this case, suddenly, we thought that this pregnancy was going to result in the birth of this little girl. And we were excited about it, and we wanted the girl to come, and so on. And so the muscle testing, all through that pregnancy, I would test my wife periodically. It always showed, oh, yes, it's going to be a girl. The baby is coming. Yes, it's going to be a girl. And then, so my wife had the baby at home. And after the baby was born, her legs were crossed, and I'm counting all the fingers and toes to make sure everything is there, And so her legs are crossed. So I pried her legs apart, just to make sure everything looked okay. And it turned out to be Joseph.
Oh.
And I thought, what is that? We've been had. And so then the next baby, I was more careful, but it turned out to be Ian. And then we finally got Lizzie at the very tail end.
Oh.
So we ended up having 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so 8 total. So you have to be careful about that. But muscle testing it's very, very accurate as long as you know its limitations.
So I notice, the columns. Is there a reason why are those things in column A versus column B? And is there a reason why certain rows of what's in them? And I notice you have organs with each row, right?
Oh, sure. The emotion code chart, it consists of 2 columns and 6 rows. Now, on the left side, that there are that each row contains some other information. For example, in row 1, it also lists heart or small intestine. Row 2, stomach, and so on. So what happens is that you see, anciently, the acupuncturists in the ancient world believed that the emotions are produced by the organs and the glands of the body, and that's exactly what we believe. We believe they were absolutely right. And so the emotions that we experience are energy, and they're frequencies. So every emotion is a certain frequency, a certain vibration of energy. And so, for example, anger is a different frequency than crying, and that's different from despair, and that's different from heartache, and that's different from shame. They're all different. But when you're feeling an emotion and it's very powerful, the energy of that emotion can become trapped in the body, and it's like a little ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a softball. And we call that a trapped emotion, and literally that's our emotional baggage. To answer your question, the reason why it's divided up into column A and column B is simply to make it easier to find the emotion. In other words, we could just have one column. We could combine column A and column B for each row, and it wouldn't really matter. But you wouldn't want to move emotions from row 1 to row 2. When we're actually testing somebody and we want to ask if there's a trapped emotion, we start off by asking if it's in column A or column B. And if we find out if it's in column A, then we'll ask, well, is it in one of the odd rows in column A? And that narrows it down. If that's a yes, we have 15 emotions left. Or if it's a no, we have 15 emotions left, but they're in the even rows. So pretty quickly we can zero in on a certain column and row, and that narrows it down to 5 emotions. And then we can ask which one of those it is. And then the subconscious mind will tell us. And if we are taken to a column in a row and we can't identify the emotion, then it's usually because that emotion was inherited at conception from mom or dad. So we can find those as well. And sometimes those can go back for generations. But your subconscious mind has all that information, doesn't it? So,
has anybody ever said it came from past lives?
Well, with past lives, the way we look at that is it kind of depends on what a person believes.
Okay.
And so yes, we do find emotions that are prior to your conception.
Right.
And we call those preconception emotions. Now, for people who believe in past lives, then they may show up as coming from a past life.
Sure.
What I personally believe, my own personal belief about this is that I believe that we each have been to this world before,
Mm-hmm.
as in the form of an angel guiding someone else through this mortal experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how we look at it. So in a sense, yes, that is a past life. I just have my own sort of take on
Sure.
it.
But in any case, the fact is, however it is, that some of them are before this life, right? I mean, that's what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes. We bring emotional energy into this life, whether it was from whether it was from the life of an ancestor, and we've inherited that, it's been passed down to us, or whether it was some experience we had ourselves before conception. Yeah, either way. I mean,
either way,
we all have lived before.
And I've heard you talk about somebody going back 12 generations, or maybe more.
Yeah, about the furthest I've ever seen one myself go back is I think about 35 generations or so. That's, for me, that's pretty unusual. It's not too uncommon to see one go back maybe 10 or 20. So, yeah, you just fix whatever you find.
But the organs that are listed, it seems to me in a way that our emotions, they have lives of their own. And maybe even our cells are filled with worker bees, divisions of labor, where those emotions are all playing themselves out, in a sense.
Well, it's a fascinating thing. These bodies of ours are so intelligent. It's beyond our ability to really comprehend. Think about this. The average cell, scientists say, is equivalent in complexity to a full-size aircraft carrier with jets, with their engines on the ramp, engines going, ready to take off, with 10,000 people working on board at all their different jobs. That's a single cell. Now, you multiply that, the average adult, they say, has about 137 trillion cells.
Okay.
And your subconscious mind knows what's going on with every single one of those cells down to the quantum level and probably beyond that. Your subconscious mind knows if your DNA is happy. We've seen DNA changes happen instantaneously when especially inherited emotional energies are passed down that have altered DNA, and we've seen genetic conditions change because of releasing the emotional energies, especially that have been passed down. So it's a fascinating thing. I believe that every split second of our lives is absolutely, literally a miracle. That these bodies of ours are nothing but pure energy, right? Scientists say that our bodies are 99.9999999% empty space. And in fact, some scientists recently figured out that if you could take all the empty space out of every individual person on the planet's body, you could fit all 7 billion of us into the space of a sugar cube.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
Right, it would be crowded, but we'd all be in there.
Wow. Wow. Do you think that all of these cells and divisions of what's going on in them are all communicating with each other?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there's definitely communication going on. And there's communication going on that we haven't really that science hasn't really identified yet. But through muscle testing, what we know is that the heart is sending communications to every cell, not just the brain, but to every cell in the body. Your heart is communicating to everything, every part of you all the time. And so this is one of the things I found when I was in practice. During the last 10 years, I was in practice for about 20 years, give or take, and 17 years in a brick and mortar practice. And during those years, during the last 10 years of that practice, Most of the people that I saw had been told there was really no help for them, no cure for them at all, and yet the vast majority of them were able to get well. Now, one of the keys to getting them well was removing their emotional baggage, and specifically, one of the keys was removing that wall around the heart. And what I found when I would test people, that people would come in to see me and they would have these major hopeless problems, and I would test them. I would find that in many cases, they would have imbalances in every organ and every gland and so on. And what I found is that when I would work on the heart first and clear that wall, remove all the emotional baggage, all those layers around their heart, and then I would recheck them, in many cases, most of those organs and glands would be turned back on again.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is
fascinating. Really it is. It is fascinating. Yeah. Now, I know that you were resistant to using magnets for a while. I think you said your brother helped so much with getting you into using them. And that was a great story in your book. And then I've also heard some other videos where you talk about that magnets aren't always necessary and that there are other ways. So I wondered if you'd talk about that.
Right. Well, yes, it's an interesting story. My brother got involved in this Japanese company called Nikken back in the early 1990s, and he started contacting me, and I wasn't interested at all. I was doing fine in my practice, and I'd been involved with him in other business things before, and network marketing businesses, so I wasn't interested in this one. And but finally, I tried one of their magnets and had an amazing result with a patient of mine, and so I started using their magnets, and it was really because of their magnets. They played a very integral role in helping me to discover and develop this methodology of the emotion code and the body code as well. But when I was writing the emotion code book, I was telling people about magnets, writing in the book, and then I realized, people are going to be able to buy the book for $20, but then I'm telling them that they're going to have to go and spend $90 to buy a magnet. And I thought, and see, I had never really tried any other magnets. I knew these magnets worked, and you could release trapped emotions, and they worked every time. But I'd never really tried any other magnets, and so I started trying other magnets. And what I found out is that any kind of magnet works, any strength of magnet, very strong ones, very weak ones, they all work. Any polarity, doesn't matter, plus, minus, positive, negative, doesn't matter. And in fact, we now know that if you don't have a magnet, you use your hand, because your hand is also magnetic. It's putting out a biomagnetic field. And the convenient thing about your hand is that you usually have it with you. And so it's usually right there available.
So now are you telling people more about using hands, or is there any benefit still to using magnets?
Well, the benefit to using a magnet, I think, is primarily more for people who are just starting out. Okay. And because a lot of people feel like they need a little something extra to raise their level of faith and belief, and so if they've got a magnet, that kind of helps them. Okay. And the magnets, a magnet will magnify that intention that person has. But after a while, you get to a point where you realize you don't really need a magnet. I mean, if I have a magnet laying around and I'm going to be releasing something, I'll go ahead and grab the magnet or not. It doesn't really matter either way. So we've kind of moved away from that focus as much as we had it before. Well,
in a way that makes it so that you're really empowering people, that it comes from within.
Well, it totally does.
Yeah.
It's all about your intention, really. I mean, really honestly, Debbie, when you wrap your mind around this work and you start using it for a while, you start to realize things, maybe after a year or two, or maybe 5 or 10, that you can actually do this in your mind. There are, for example, if you can imagine, passing a magnet down someone's back, that will also release the trapped emotion. These minds of ours, our subconscious minds, are so incredibly powerful that we can do things that we're only now beginning to discover. One of the things that you can do too, for example, in Korean hand acupuncture, you can use the middle finger because it represents the head and the neck, and you can just swipe down that a few times to release a trapped emotion. You can swipe down the back of the ear if you want to, because the spine is also represented there. The ear looks like a photo or a picture of an upside down fetus with the head at the bottom. And sure enough, that's how the acupuncturists look at it. So you can go up or down the outside of that ear, and it's equivalent to going up and down the governing meridian on the back of the spine. It's all just so interesting.
And it's the same with muscle testing, as you've said, and I've experienced that when you ask, a lot of times the answer is there in your mind even before you're getting the response from the muscle testing. So it is about that inside job kind of thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's why in the book we talk about how muscle testing is like training wheels for your intuition. And so, for example, my daughter, she used muscle. She's 19 now. I think she learned how to do the muscle testing when she was about 12 or 13, and she used it for about a month and then realized, I don't really need to do this. The answers are right there in my head, and she hasn't done any muscle testing since then. And gets great results with her friends and her friends' parents and so on. So yes, if you listen to that little voice, that little bit of pure knowledge that comes to you just before you get the answer, you'll know that's what it is. And it's an interesting thing, at our events, typically there will be people that will come up to me and they'll say, you were doing that demonstration on that person, and just before you would find the emotion, I would know what it was going to be. See?
Yeah.
Because truth is truth, and the more tuned in you are to that frequency, the more able you are to hear what the message is. And it's really interesting. It's kind of like tuning our bodies into a particular radio station and tuning our minds into that little voice. And what we have found is that when you ask for help from up above, if you believe in a higher power, which I definitely believe in, if you ask for help, then you're much more likely to get that help. And
well, I know that was a very important, one of the first things of your own story was about finding that to be true. And all your stories of how you came into this are absolutely wonderful. They're really wonderful. I hope people will go and hear them and read them. So I wonder, I know you're certifying lots of people. I know you also have the body code, and what's on the horizon? What's next for you?
Oh gosh, well, we have a lot of things going on. We've got a big team of about typically between 32 to 35 people working for us just in our own company, and we have other companies that are working on the outside, and we've got some big things going on that I probably
don't want to say yet. Okay, all right, but yeah. Well,
it generates a lot of tickets for our customer support staff. Is what happens if if I jump the gun. But we do have some exciting things going on. We are going to be we have emotion code certification now for people who want to really master this, and it also gives them the opportunity then to do it for a living if they want to, or to make an additional income, and that's a prerequisite to body code certification, and then we're going to have higher levels of that as well. We'll have a couple more levels leading to mastery levels in the body code. So we're very excited about all that.
And that brought in your computer programming knowledge, did it not?
Oh, you're talking about the body code?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, exactly right. See, when I discovered computers in 1980, I was really just smitten, and I became a total computer nerd. My wife and I were married, I think, for 3 years before we even had a couch to sit on, but we had a computer. So that'll give you an idea what that poor woman has been through.
Oh, but I love to hear her in your videos, by the way. She's wonderful.
She's really amazing.
Mhm.
So yes, I was very involved in computers. Well, when I got into practice, and see, it helped me to understand computers and to become a programmer, because it helped me to understand, and it helped me to have a paradigm for the subconscious mind,
Yep.
because it's also a computer.
Fabulous.
And so when I was in practice, I always had a computer there, and I was always trying to kind of combine the silicon computer on my desk with this carbon-based computer that is, that was my patient's. And so what I was able to do is create this system, this very extensive mind mapping knowledge-based system now that we call the body code. And the body code is a way that we can really open the subconscious mind and get any answers about anything else besides emotional baggage. Although the body code includes the emotion code, it's in there too. But so much of what people suffer from is due to their emotional baggage. I needed to get the emotion code book out first to the world so that people could understand that. And then what happened to me was, about a year after the emotion code came out, I woke up one morning and my mind was full of instruction. And the instruction was, you need to take everything that you've learned about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can learn and make it available to everyone, everywhere. And I remember what a strange thing this was, to wake up and to be told this.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I remember kind of lying there thinking, well, are you sure about this? This seems like it could be quite a bit of work. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. It took about a year to create the first version of the body code. And then in 2013, we took another year and redid it again. And that's the body code 2.0. And now we're hard at work on another version. Mm-hmm. And but it's really fun.
What do you think about the role of food in all this?
Well, I think that, like you're saying, that we use food as a way to deal with emotion. And so in many, many cases, people end up being emotional eaters, and they end up weighing a lot more than they should, because they're trying to get some comfort somewhere. They're trying to deal with what's going on in their minds, with their emotions. And so food is the old standby. We know that plate of brownies is going to taste good, or that, those 3 pizzas. In fact, I have to tell you, one of the most successful cases that I saw where someone used the emotion code to lose a lot of weight was a man that came to one of our events, and he told us that a year before he weighed 365 pounds. And he weighed about 185 pounds at this event. So he literally lost about 180 pounds. He lost in 1 year about 180 pounds. And I asked him how he did it. And he said that what he would do is, and he had tried to lose weight before with all kinds of different things, nothing worked. He said he didn't change anything except one thing. When he would have an urge to eat something that he knew he should not really eat, like the whole pan of brownies or whatever, he would stop and he would test himself and ask himself, okay, do I have a trapped emotion that is creating this urge for me to eat this whole pan of brownies? And he would get a yes answer. He would find the emotion in the chart and release it, which would probably only take about a minute or so. And that urge then would pass. And he said that's all he did. And so in 1 year, lost basically the equivalent of a 180-pound guy that he was hauling around. And he looked great after a year.
Talk about baggage. Wow.
Right. Well, think about it. See, exactly. We all have this emotional baggage that's causing us to do things we'd rather not do, that's causing us to travel paths we'd rather not take, and that's causing us to eat more than we should, or eat the wrong kinds of things, etc. And yet we can't seem to stop ourselves. Now, we can be addicted to food, of course, and we can be addicted to all kinds of things. And what we find is that very, very often, emotional baggage is a big underlying piece of that puzzle. For example, I was talking with somebody just recently who had an addiction to pornography, and was able to get over that addiction by removing the trapped emotions of lust and shame and so on that were driving that, and then made an enormous change. So this is the kind of thing that we see.
And I think somewhere in your book you talk about an addiction kind of frequency or vibration that is
yes,
maybe in the heart or something.
It's in the body code. It's something that we call an addictive heart energy. Now, let me explain this. What happened was, I think this was about 9 or 10 years ago. We were contemplating why it is that people will give up one addiction only to turn to another addiction. And this is very, very common,
Yep.
So-and-so doesn't drink anymore, but now
yeah,
it's doing something else. And it's very common. And so what we found was something that we call an addictive heart energy. So let me explain. And what we believe, about this, and what I believe about this is that before we come into this world, we live in this existence with the higher power, with God, creator, source energy, whatever you want to call it, and it's an extremely high vibration of energy, where we're surrounded with unconditional love and perfection and everything that we need. And then we're born, and we're born in this world where the energy vibration of this world is very, very low. And so then we want to get back there. Within each one of us, I believe, in the deepest part of each one of our hearts, we want to get back there where we came from, but we can't right now. And so then things start happening to us as well as we're living our lives, and we go through. Maybe we get bullied, or we go through divorces, or relationship breakups, or bad jobs, and so we start to develop trapped emotions. Sometimes we feel like our heart's going to break, and so the subconscious mind puts up a wall around the heart made of those layers of emotional baggage. And then your heart, not only can your heart not get back to where it would like to get back to, which is the home we left, but also now your heart is surrounded with all these layers of emotional energy, things like failure and grief and panic and hatred and guilt and so on. And so what happens sometimes then is, because we can't get back where we really want to go, this energy will get created sometimes in the heart that it's like a black hole, like a little black hole of energy in the heart. A black hole, they say, has a gravitational field so powerful because it's formed by a huge star that collapses on itself, and so the gravitational field is so powerful that not even a beam of light can escape it. If you were on the surface of a black hole with a flashlight, it wouldn't work, because the gravity is too strong to even allow the light to go to escape it. And so this is kind of what this is. In the heart, you develop this little addictive heart energy. It's like a little black hole. And what it does is it attracts things into your life that aren't necessarily good for you. And it drives this addiction, this addictive behavior. And so what we see sometimes is that when we remove that addictive heart energy, and by the way, this only seems to form in the presence of a heart wall. So you had to have a heart wall. Not everybody does, but 93% of people do end up with a heart wall in their lives. When we clear that energy, it changes how people feel. And oftentimes those addictive behaviors will suddenly just be broken. I remember for me, when we figured this out, we were actually in New York City. I think it was 2011. It was the 10th anniversary. We were there we were doing an event, my daughters and I. And I found that I had this same thing going on with myself. So we cleared it from me, this addictive heart energy. The next day, somehow I made it back home. And the next morning was Monday morning. And my little girl, who's 19 now, she was 10 or 11 or so. She would come into the room. She'd come into my office every morning. She and I were the first ones always up. And she would come into the office in the morning every morning, and we would snuggle for a little bit, and then I'd go on with my day, and she would go on with hers. Well, this Monday, she came in, and I gave her a hug and a squeeze and gave her a kiss, and then I thought, you know what? I don't really need to work today. And see, my issue was that I was a workaholic. See, I was addicted to work. But all of a sudden, with that gone, I took the day off, and she and I went shopping. So,
and do you think? Yeah, that's so cool. Do you think that addiction, heart energy, is that quest to be with spirit, that quest to get to that place?
I think so. Yes, I think that what's happening with so many people in the world is that you know, with all of us, what happens is we're born into this world into a state of total amnesia. There's a veil that's placed over our minds. We don't remember where we were before.
Mm-hmm.
All we know is what we have here. This is all we know, all we've ever known from the time we're born. And so, but inside of each one of us, we have this deep, deep longing to get
Mm-hmm.
back to where we came from. And so because we can't get back there right now, we try all kinds of other things to try to assuage that need. And so we might become an adrenaline junkie, or we might lose ourselves in alcohol or drugs, sex, or whatever it might be, because we're trying to fill that need. Let me share a story with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was 18 years old, and I was sitting one day meditating quietly, and all of a sudden, that veil that divides us from our life before was parted in some way to me. And the result of this was that I went from one moment just sitting quietly meditating to the next instant, every particle of my being was filled to overflowing with the most absolutely overwhelming, unearthly feeling of homesickness
Mm.
that I can't really even describe it. It was just
Wow.
devastatingly powerful,
Mm.
and it just lasted for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then that little window closed somehow.
Mm.
And I mean, it's so hard to
Wow.
describe
But
experiences like
it
that.
gave you a point of reference, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I
Yeah.
realized from that experience that we truly are strangers here in this world, and I also realized that if we did not have that veil of forgetfulness that is somehow placed upon us
Mm-hmm.
in this world, but we would not be able to stand it in this world
Mm-hmm.
for 5 minutes, because we have fallen so far.
Mm-hmm.
We're in so much lower of a vibrational energy, and such a different world from the world we came from. And so that experience taught me that. And I wish I could relay to your listeners what that felt like. But I guess if you were to take the most homesick you ever felt in your whole life, that where you just felt like you were going to cry because you were so homesick, and if you magnified that, I don't know, 1,000,000
Yeah.
times, I I I can't describe it. But anyway,
Well,
so that's
doesn't
who
it
we are.
doesn't it give empathy in a way for depression that a lot of people might be feeling?
Well, absolutely, yes. And one of the things that we have found with the emotion code is that depression is very, very often, most often, caused by emotional baggage. And the worst cases of depression that I've ever seen, people who literally had to decide each day when they got up if they were going to live or die that day, or if that was going to be the day they ended their life. That's how depressed these people were. I've seen people that bad turn around completely in a matter of days when the heart wall is removed.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So what does that tell you?
That's so cool. That is just incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know you've written about people who will indicate that it's not time to remove all of that heart wall, or they might remove part of one or one wall, but maybe there's another. So, absolute respect for the timing that, needs to happen with all this.
Well, yes, and that's why in the emotion code process, what we do is, if you ask someone, do you have a trapped emotion, or do you have a heart wall, for example? If the subconscious mind responds back yes, that they do, the next question is always, can we remove or can we release an emotion from your heart wall now? And sometimes the subconscious mind will say no.
Mm-hmm.
But my experience is that if you give the subconscious mind a week or so to think about it and kind of weigh the pros and cons, it will in my experience, it will always come back and say, yeah, it's okay, let's go ahead and start removing these, because it's always better to not have that wall.
Mm-hmm.
But that wall is put up, you see, around our hearts when our hearts feel like they're going to break. And so it's like the bombs are falling, and so we need to move our heart into a bunker. But you don't want to live the rest of your life with your heart in a bunker. That would be a mistake.
No, but the wall is really there to be protective. I mean, it's meant in a good way, even though there's quite a price to pay.
Yeah, exactly right.
Is there anything that you want to add or that I didn't ask that you want to highlight?
People can, of course, buy the Emotion Code book on Amazon. They can get it on Audible.
Yep.
So it's the audio there.
I gave you quite a nice review there on Audible, by the way. I did indeed.
Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. I'll have to go read that.
Yeah. It starts with DH. I think it's there as DH, but that's
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go read that when we get done. Yeah, my advice to your listeners is just you have to try this, because
it's so good.
People all over the world are finding out that emotional baggage is real. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can identify your own emotional baggage. You can start healing yourself emotionally from all the junk that you've been through, from all of from the inherited emotional energy that you picked up at conception from mom or dad that might go back for generations. Sometimes we find things in the womb. It can be amazing how powerful this is. I worked on a woman at an event recently who sounded like Darth Vader.
No. Goodness.
My name is such and such, and that's how she was. Everyone could hear her breathing in this whole auditorium. And I found that she had some trauma that had happened to her at birth. And we cleared that, and she's had 12 surgeries on her throat, and all of a sudden, within about 30 seconds or so, she's speaking like a normal person again. It's amazing what can happen. But we're living in the age of the heart. We're living in a wonderful time when the true nature of our bodies is finally being revealed, and how to deal with these energy bodies is also finally being revealed. And it's a great time to be alive, and the Emotion Code is so easy that kids can do it, and so you can try it, and that's my advice. Just try it out and see what happens. It's so true. This world is in this transformational process, but I believe how we're going to complete that transformational process, a big piece of that is through healing. And we have to bring the animals with us, and we have to bring our ancestors with us, because they all belong to this planet. It's not just us. So this is the age of empowerment. In fact, our motto for Discover Healing, our domain, discoverhealing.com, our motto and our company slogan and purpose is healing the world by empowering you.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Great to connect.
Time to win the wars and fights. Go beyond all the senses that you know, and find that inner glow, and let it flow and flow.